The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, O Lord.
As Jesus continued his journey to Jerusalem, he traveled through Samaria and Galilee. As he was entering a village, 10 lepers met him. They stood at a distance from him and raised their voices, saying, "Jesus, Master, have pity on us." And when he saw them, he said, "Go show yourselves to the priests." As they were going, they were cleansed. And one of them, realizing he had been healed, returned, glorifying God in a loud voice. And he fell at the feet of Jesus and thanked him. He was a Samaritan. Jesus said in reply, 10 were cleansed, were they not? Where are the other 9? Has none but this foreigner returned to give thanks to God? Then he said to him, "Stand up and go. Your faith has saved you." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
There was once a kid, a young boy, who was a little different from other kids his age, especially his younger brother. For the purposes of this story, we'll call this kid Rudy. I have no idea who this child is. What made him a little different was, especially on Christmas and Easter, he looked forward to with bated breath. Not necessarily because of the presents that came with these two holidays, but because it was the one day a year that he could dress up in a suit and a tie and polished shoes and wear them all day long. And he also was kind of a strange kid in that he did not ever want pictures to be taken of himself. And his aunt, who was a budding photographer, would often try to sneak in a picture, but often the result was him hiding his face behind the camera or from the lens. But on Easter, there would be an exception. He would let his aunt and his parents take a picture of him. But also what made him a little strange was, dressed up in a suit and a tie, all day long he would carry around with him Old Glory, the American flag. Seems a little strange, and it seemed strange to his parents. And they asked him one Easter, "What's the connection? Why do you want to carry around the stars and the stripes on Easter Sunday?" And his explanation was something like this. He said, "Without our freedom, without the freedom to worship freely as we choose, without the sacrifices of those who have lived before us, we wouldn't be able to go to church on this most important day, the most important day for Catholics." And whatever, nuances this child learned on later in life, there is a close relationship between memory and thanksgiving, between giving thanks and gratitude and recollection. I would go so far as to say, as giving thanks depends upon remembering. One of them, realizing that he had been healed, returned, glorifying God in a loud voice, and he fell at the feet of Jesus and thanked him. He was a Samaritan, and Jesus said in reply, 10 were cleansed, where are the other 9? St. Cyril of Alexandria, one of the great early church fathers, commentated on this passage. He said that the other 9, who did not return to give thanks, fell into a thankless forgetfulness. How often in our lives do we take for granted, do we not reflect on the sacrifices of other people that we do not see, whether they are still alive or people who have gone to their final rest? Things, after all, as those of us who studied here at UD know that this is one of the, if you will, arguments for the existence of God. Things don't just magically come together. everything that has structure and order and purpose requires someone to structure it, to order it, to create it, to fashion it, and also to give it to others. A couple of months ago, I was talking with someone who was visiting from out of town, who was unfamiliar with this UD Irving area, because he was a bit surprised at how Catholic this area is. He said in North Texas, in Dallas, there's immigration from Latin America, but to see such a rich and vibrant Catholic hub surprised him. And the details of my history might be a bit wrong, but I told him that we are all here, this whole rich Catholic hub, the Abbey, all these Catholic schools, and then Catholic families who live in the area. All of us are here because of one institution, the University of Dallas. And I told him, actually none of us would be here without UD. There might have been sprung up at some point a Catholic community, but the vibrancy, and especially this Church of the Incarnation, is due to the fact of UD. It would not exist without UD's commitment to keeping this university Catholic, specifically its identity and as a university. How many names known and unknown to us have made possible the preservation of our Catholic faith here on campus? Hopefully some of us know Bishop Gorman, right? His name is on the side of one of the buildings. He was instrumental not only in founding this Catholic university, but also in giving it its distinct liberal arts character. We all know the Cowans, right? Those who formed the great liberal arts curriculum, the core. But how many of us know the contribution of a non-Catholic who was also instrumental in this place? John Carpenter. His name is not just for 114, right? There is a reason that his name is so well known in this area. He gave, or sold, or gave, depending on how you want to look at it, gave the land for this university because he believed in its mission and in its Catholic nature, even though he himself was not Catholic. This last week, I had the blessing of sitting down for a nice long conversation with one of the architects of this church building, Jane Landry. She and her husband, Dwayne, still come here regularly for Mass. And as we were talking, it occurred to me, even though I am a UD alum and now work here at UD, how much wisdom went into constructing and maintaining this church. Some people more connected with UD than others. Many of us were formed by the wisdom and the knowledge of Dr. Lyle and Sybil Novinsky and benefited from their wisdom. And there are so many other people who made possible this church who are not connected with UD, but still in their generosity believe in its nature and mission. We forget at our own peril the generosity of others, because many of us, even now, will never see the fruit of our sacrifices. At least we won't see them on this side of the grave. There's a beautiful painting that I shared with my mom several months ago on Facebook, so I had to scroll back for a few minutes in my Facebook feed to find it. Because it's a beautiful painting of a mom holding her infant son. And in the painting, she is looking at an image of Mary holding the Christ child. And on top of this, someone has superimposed a quote from Pope St. Paul VI, who wrote, "Every mother is like Moses. She does not enter the promised land. She prepares a world that she will not see." Ultimately, all of us are here because of someone else or other people. We are all here most fundamentally because we have been created and redeemed and loved and called by God. We gather here in this holiest way of giving thanks, the Holy Eucharist, the Holy Mass, this act of thanksgiving par excellence, because we give thanks to the Father as members of His beloved Son's mystical body. And we remember each and every time we come to Mass, salvation history not only proclaimed in these sacred texts, but also salvation history in our own lives. Those twists and turns that God has used to bring us where we are. As we prepare to receive the body and the blood of the Son of God, may this Eucharist we receive remind us to give thanks to God and to give thanks to all the people who have made us who we are and who have brought us here.